To MDM tutorial. Today we're going to discuss about soft system methodology. So the first, here are some characteristics of a system. It is part of a wider system, has an environment, have components, continuity, boundaries, purpose, and so on. Next, we're going to discuss about the difference between hard and soft system. First, hard system is a system where mechanical components are involved. Their behavior can usually be predicted with accuracy. It is an objective reality of systems in the world. So we have well-defined problems to be solved, and we have scientific approach to solve this problem. So we have one correct solution. For example, is a nuclear reactor. So it is a design physical system. For this chapter, we're going to focus more on soft system. So it is a human activity system, meaning human behavior is observed. We're trying to observe and do an analysis of human behaviors in the system. So a group of humans' activities and the relationship within those activities. The system's problems are seldom clear and usually messy or fuzzy, so it's not clearly defined. They are also more complex with indeterminable variables, and we have to use this creative, intuitive approach to problem solving. So we don't have one correct solution, but rather the outcome are learning and better understanding the situation itself. For example, it's an organizational system. Next, on methodology, for structured system analysis and design method for hard system, the methodology is quite rigid with procedures in them, but in soft system, the methodology is a looser framework that we can use to focus on improvement of organizational problems. So the basic of SSM, it is a qualitative methodology. The features, we can use SSM to deal with messy situation that involves public and private participation as a key element. In real world, in real world, hard system methodology and soft system methodology complement each other. And one interesting thing about soft system methodology that it constrains your thinking in order to expand your thinking. So you're thinking about the real world, but also the idea of how to improve the real world. So we have 5 assumptions in SSM. First, the problems are messy and poorly defined. Second, the stakeholders interpret problems differently because they have different views, different assumptions, and different logics. Third, there's no objective reality. The objective is unclear. Fourth, we have multiple goals, and the fifth, it is very entangled. The problems, the situation, the parties, and so on. So when we're talking about solving an SSM problem, we have 7 steps that we need to follow. If you guys can see, it is divided into 2 parts. So on step 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, we're discussing about the real world as it is. But on the step 3 and 4, we're talking about the system that is thinking about the real world. So we're expanding our understanding so we can more understand the world as it is, but we're not analyzing the world itself. Okay, for stage 1, first we have to do a problem situation unstructured. So we have to assess the general area that we are interested in. So we don't define the problem yet. So we just collect as much data as we can, be it qualitative, quantitative, whatever you guys can name it. This is an example of stage 1. This is just a brief situation description, but not necessarily highlighting the problems that we have to solve. Yeah, right. Moving to stage 2, in this stage, we express the problem that we have to tackle. So There are two main things that you have to do in this step because the situation needs to be expressed in all its richness. Here are some guidelines that you can include, be it the structure, the process, the climate, the people, the issue, and the conflicts. And because it is best to describe it in a picture form. So if we combine these two, we will get a rich picture. So it is an iconic representation, which is hand drawn, literally hand drawn. You guys draw it on a piece of paper to sum up the important elements of the problem situation. There are no rules. You guys can draw it as you like, but the purpose is to investigate the people, the situation in this issue that we're trying to solve. So, for example, here, if you guys can see on the upper side, it is a picture of an eyeball. So, it indicates that something is being overlooked. It is inspected or supervised by something. This one on the lower left, it's not a scissor, it's an icon of crossed word. So this indicate conflicts between two or more parties. The last one, on the right, it's a stickman with a thought bubble. So in reality, in rich picture, you guys have to name the stickman. For example, you name this as student or as government or the party that you're trying to explain, and the thought bubble can explain their interests or the issues that they are facing. Yeah, this is an example, but uh, yeah, you guys can do it as you like, but this is just an example, so there is no right or wrong. It is the purpose of creating a rich picture is so just you guys can understand the complexity of a problem better in a picture form. Right, on stage 3, so in this stage we move out of the real world and into the world of the systems. So in this stage we expand our understanding about the real problem. Okay, so the first step, we have to understand the concept of different perspective, and these perspectives are called holons. It is a plausible, relevant, purposeful perspective that describe the real world activities. And then moving on, we have to make a root definition. It is a short definition of aims and means of the system to be modeled. Next, okay, right. Still on the step 3, we have to make a CATWO analysis. So, this CATWO is short for all these customer, actor, transformation process. Weltanschauung means world view of the world, owners and environmental constraints. So we have to analyze who are the customers, who are the actors, what are the transformation process, and so on. So from this CATWO analysis, you start with the transformation process first. So you identify what is the start and finish of the system. And then next, you see the Weltanschauung, that is what gives the transformation meaning, that makes the transformation meaningful in context. And then next, we have 3 parties here: owners, customers, and actors. So owners are those in power to stop the transformation. Actors are those who do the transformation, and customers are people who benefit or get losses from the transformation. So people who feel the impact of the information of the transformation. And last, the environmental constraints. These are the external elements outside of the system that influence but does not control the system. Okay, so we also have to make a statement of a relevant system. So this one in bold and in blue is the format. So you have to write it down as a system to do X by Y in order to do Z. Okay, this is the example root definition one. Okay, so in this example, we see that from root definition 1 and root definition 2 is actually answering the same issue, but they have different approaches. So in return, in their CATWO analysis, they have same customers, actors, and owners. If you see student like your student, like your student, student like your student, like your student, but they have different transformation process, wealth and strong, and environmental constraint. This is normal because um, SSM is an iterative process, so you just go on and on to complete your understanding of the problem, and from one person to another, you may have different approaches. So there's no right or wrong, but just make sure that you have these three: customers, actors, wealth and strong. Customer, actor, and owners. They're usually quite fixed. This one is another example, but you don't have to draw this by hand, or you don't have to make this. This is just figure to help you understand more. Next, on stage 4, we're building conceptual model. So in demonstrating potential activity, we have to express our conceptual model in a verb noun phrase. So we have a verb here: do, eat, open, and a noun, something that correlates with the verb: do something, eat something, open something, and it is made in hand-drawn bubbles. So like this circle, I suppose. So the bubbles may be joined by arrows indicating dependence, that one activity is a consequence of another activity. So you have to aim for 7 plus minus 2 activities, so 5, 7, or 9 that are the same scale. In this way, we can see the parts more better and we don't lose track. And then we have the performance measurements by 3 E's. Does it, for efficacy, does it work? Efficiency, does it use the resources well? Effectiveness, does it meet longer term aims? The fourth one is actually an additional, it's not part of the 3 E's, but ethics is also something that you have to consider. Should we be doing this or not? This is the example of stage 4. So these are the bubbles and arrows that I said before. It is not possible to say whether a model is correct or not, but some can be more logical than other. So you just have to make the conceptual models as logical as possible with clear steps that describe your overall conceptual model. This is also an example, right? On stage 5, now we compare the conceptual model with real world. This is to gain insights. So there are 4 ways of doing this. The first one, unstructured discussion. Second, structured questioning of the model using matrix approach. Third, scenario or dynamic modeling. Fourth, trying to model real world using the same structure as the conceptual model. But from out of all these 4 ways, the second is the most common use. So we just use a matrix approach. We look at each component of the model and ask, does it exist in the real world? How does it behave? How is its performance identified and measured? And is the process good? So to be remembered, the biggest and most common mistake you can make at this stage is to confuse the reality and the model. So with the reality, you just have this information that you have all gathered in stage 1, but on the model, it is what you develop on stage 4. It is more expanded than the reality world. Next, in comparison matrix, so we have this table of the activity. Is it done in real situation, how it's done, the comments and recommendations. You can simply make a table like this. This is another example of the table that I describe here. And then moving on stage 6, we develop changes as systematically desirable and culturally feasible change. So at this point, the methodology stopped being sequential, um, and it's trying to be kind of move back and forth an iterative process through the 7 stages in order to gain the greatest leverage. So the comparison should be two. First, it's systematically desirable, so it must produce the outcome that you want. And the second, it's culturally feasible, so it's possible to see the change, to make the change in a socio-cultural term. There are 4 types of changes: the structural, procedural, policy, attitudinal, or cultural. On our last stage is the action to improve. This is where the methodology comes on full cycle, and in this stage we actually implement the recommendations. Here's the example. So if you guys remember, these are the table that we make on stage 6 before. Here, activity, exists or not, present mechanism, measure or performance, recommendation, comments. It's quite the same. But on this stage, you actually choose. Wait, hold on. Yeah. So for this, I'm sorry, it's kind of cropped. Yeah, but on this stage, you actually get to choose which one are you going to use and to improve. Okay, I think that's all. It's quite normal for you guys to be confused at first, but I hope on the next video when we discuss more about the problem, you guys will get a better understanding of soft system methodology.